boys, we are back on Assetto Corsa, and it's been a long time since I've been on this game. Now we are in Radas S15. This is a newish car that was added to Assetto Corsa, and I have returned to the Tokyo drift map. We're going to try and drift our way back to the top of this. Now I've got to get used to drifting again because this already feels a bit weird to me. It's been a while since I've actually done any sort of drifting, to be honest. I do feel like the turbo on this needs to be turned up. Now that could be on my end there, although it is shooting a lot of flames, which I'm not the biggest fan of. And this does actually handle relatively slow and drive quite slow in second gear, so this might actually be perfect for this map because we don't have to full send it, although we're gonna have to clutch kick a whole lot if we want to get around this track, because this track is relatively big. It's got quite a few sharp corners. I have actually had to stick with the default chase cam because using my stereo box cam mod, it actually clips through the walls so much it makes this map almost unplayable. I don't know if I've got enough power in this. I really have to clutch kick this even in second gear. I might have to just clutch kick it a bit more on these corners and things to really get some power out of it. But it handles very well. I've got to give it that. I believe this car is on a brand new physics engine. Turbo's at 100% now. Let's see if that makes any difference to what we're actually doing here. Now it's got a bit more pull to it, so that might be the reason why. So now we've got a bit more pull, so this should be a little bit easier to come in here with these things now. This is handling so much better. That's it. It was the lack of turbo power that I had in there. And I can't remember this track fully, but I remember all the corners are relatively tight. However, this S15 is handling this like a boss. Now, I'm actually loving, oh god, like I was saying, I was actually loving this drift camera that we've got here. This thing looks super awesome. It's actually one of the default chase cams. If you enable it on the content manager, you'll be able to access this camera. I do want to try a first person run back up or down. Maybe a little reverse drift around this like so, and then we can kind of drift into the ramp. Oh, that took a lot more focus than I really needed. I actually was so focused on that. It's been a while since I've drifted on AC, and it's been a while since I've even played AC. I've just been a little bit busy in creating content I haven't really done. Now, this is something that I'm going to try and up my game on, that I should be able to produce more content, and I'm going to try and leave a couple of breaks in it, because I notice in my content, I usually speak relatively quick, and I chop it down and leave no gaps for breathing or anything, so I sound like an absolute robot. So I'm going to try and just make it a little bit more casual. Hopefully, it still gives a good effect on the video and I don't have to worry about the gaps. I will cut out any like an unnecessary gap. Now these flames on this car are massive when you kind of put your foot down on the gas pedal. However, it's handling quite nice. Now I'm gonna have to keep dropping down to these lower gears unless I clutch kick. Once you get it up to that second gear, keeping the speed, it kind of gives me the same sense as the DWG car pack, where you really need to drive them quite aggressive in order to get the most out of it. Now this car is actually a dream car. Imagine having this car. It looks absolutely mint, and it's definitely one I would really love to own, even in the yellow color. I really like the yellow, to be fair. It's a very nice looking color. Now we're almost back to the start, so I will actually try a first person run back up and then back down, and maybe, depending on how this all goes, I'll change car. However, I'm quite liking this S15. We're not going quite as quick as I'd like to be. This is quite a slow track, and it's one that you kind of have to learn from, but that's absolutely fine. We've managed to make it to the top and down with only a couple of hiccups. Now the floor is a bit wobbly there, I just noticed. So drifting back down, we're going to be drifting in some sort of weird green tint, and I'm not sure about this. This is probably going to look horrible. I'm not sure about this window tint, but we're going to give it a shot anyway to see how we do. Now the green tint is definitely putting me off, so what I'm going to do is change car instead of using this. We are back in AC again. We're back in a different car this time. We are in the S15. This is the Mona Lisa. This is from Yokai Garage, and this thing looks absolutely awesome. Now if you haven't already, I had a video that came out probably over a year ago of me actually drifting around this track, originally using the cars from the Fast and Furious franchise. Now I do like the Sparko steering wheel on this. It looks really cool. But it's very quiet inside the car. The engine is not particularly loud, which is one thing I have noticed. Now this is running around the 400 brake mark, which is a little bit more than what the Rada one was. I believe that's just under 400. It's about 300 and something. Now one thing about this car is it actually handles quite nice. Now I also don't have to worry too much about the boost at these lower points, because second gear works really nicely, whereas the Rada one, you had to kind of clutch kick it or drive really aggressively to keep up that speed. This is getting a little bit sketchy already. We've got some wobbly floor going on there, but that's absolutely fine. Now we've got this very tight section here. Now I might have to shift down into first for this, just to get around here. Very nice. And then we can floor it. Now this little jump goes into a straight section where you can carry quite a bit of speed, so let's not go too overboard here. I've accidentally shifted down. Oh, I've absolutely messed that up. I actually recently got a proper e-brake as well, so now I can drift properly properly without using a button on my wheel, which is something that got relatively confusing considering when you're trying to drift, your wheel's spinning around and it's very hard to press something while your wheel is upside down. So now I've got an actual e-brake for my sim. I can just pull on that and we can begin drifting, which is so much easier than trying to press a button that is moving constantly. But I am a bit of an e-brake merchant. I do notice that I use the e-brake so much more than I probably should, but that's not the worst thing in the world. I do know you can use the clutch a lot more, but the e-brake to me is just easier. A lot of people generally use the clutch. There's probably different ways you can drift around here, then we should be able to drift back down the ramp and then all the way back to the start. Now I've had to drift in the opposite direction just so I can get this, oh god, section on this ramp here. Now I don't know how that looked. That probably looked absolutely scuffed coming down that ramp. So hard to drift and talk, I find. Very hard to kind of concentrate on what's going on, but at the same time it does make it a little bit more of a challenge. Oh, I'm gonna lose control down here. I'm already losing control as it is, so I'm gonna slow down a bit. This car does have a lot of speed and the wheel just likes to, you know, it likes to get a bit loose here and there. I really need to up my force feedback when I'm using this car because it feels very light on the steering wheel. Yeah, the wheel feels a bit light to me. I'm not sure if it's this car or if my settings have decided to go on a bit of a silly one. Would recommend using an S15 always when drifting. They're super great cars for drifting, especially if you're trying out anything new. Now for anyone also wondering, I am using a Logitech G29 wheel with a shifter and a budget handbrake that I actually bought from Amazon for about $70 or $80. So that is one thing I'm using. I'm not using no professional gear, so you can always have fun drifting with a low budget as well. I mean, low budget drifting is probably not the greatest. The G29 wheel does like to vibrate a whole lot. However, it does, oh god, it does miracles for me here and there. Now you don't have to have a great wheel or anything to drift. You could literally drift with a controller or anything you enjoy. Why not do it with whatever I have an absolute blast with drifting in this game, and it's just something I'm just very much into. I much prefer drifting to other motorsports, so it's one thing that I just love in doing, even when I used to play Car X or Assetto Corsa with a controller. Now Assetto Corsa with a controller is very janky in my opinion, but there are some good assist mods out there that I might have to try for a video.